This week on the Valor Flight Crew podcast, we welcome Zane Atencio.
Title is not necessarily important. I have held a couple different positions within the organization I work for now, but the most buy-in I get is on the line because crews call me not because I'm management. I have no authority, but they call me because they know I'm reliable and I understand what they're going through. So I lead by being relatable and just remembering what it's like, when you're learning or even when you're just having a hard day. We each can teach each other things, and adding some humility to that is something that we think we have to do when we have title, but not necessary.
Welcome back to the Valor Flight Crew podcast, hosted by Echo and brought to you by Vertical Helicast and Valor Plus. In today's episode, we sit down with Zane Atencio for a candid, practical conversation about what leadership really looks like from the front lines of EMS. From the back of the ambulance to the flight deck, Zane shares his journey from fire medic to flight medic and the lessons he's learned about communication, accountability, and the responsibility that comes from leading from wherever you stand. Together, we dig into the realities of team dynamics, generational differences in the workforce, and the challenge of orienting new providers in a fast-moving, high-stakes environment. We talk about the power of self-reflection, the importance of recognizing good work, and why a supportive culture, one that allows people to learn from mistakes, can make all the difference for crews and patients alike. This is a conversation about trust, growth, and the everyday leadership moments that shape the culture of an organization. So strap in, check your gauges, and join us as we lift into another episode of the Valor Flight Crew podcast, where leadership isn't just a title, it's a mindset carried on every mission. Thank you to our sponsors, Airbus, Precision Aviation Group, and Metro Aviation.
Welcome to the Valor Flight Crew podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicast, produced in partnership with Echo, Every Coast Helicopter Operations. The Valor Flight Crew podcast promotes the personnel and life-saving equipment behind helicopter air ambulance services. Join hosts Mike Fideli and Blake Schreider for in-depth interviews and expert insights from air medical personnel, pilots, communication specialists, and maintenance crews who play critical roles in airborne emergency response.
Line 1 accepting.
Copy, line 1, gotcha, accepting. You're going to be talking to Red Feather 1 on LCEMS.
I just think that's such a great characteristic of a true leading from the front, without ego, without title, of just really saying, like, you're vulnerable, but also yet you're very strong, and also not afraid to say, hey, these are things that didn't go right. Because like you said, it's like we all have that same common goal, and it's to take care of the patient. I would rather get it wrong at a time that it didn't really affect a whole lot of things, and I was able to catch it. So that way, if it were to be an issue at some point, at least I had that experience to lean on to be like, hey, I remember this could potentially go this way. We should definitely not do that. And I think that's such a huge thing. I just wish a lot of people would really kind of bring to that side when you're precepting and instructing people. It's not about all the things that you've done. No one cares.
No, they're not going to remember truly.
But it's not easy to have that self-reflection. It's people don't want to think about all the things they didn't do well. They want to forget about those, brush them under the rug, and move on with their life. Whereas, that obviously takes a lot of humility and self-reflection to do it. And nobody wants to look at all of our mistakes in life like that.
Right in the mirror. Yeah.
I'm perfect. Like, I'm at the pinnacle of my career. I'm the best. I am the best of the best, and I do everything right. Like, everybody should look up to me.
I think one thing that I try to do that was instilled in me at my original PHI base is every morning we would have a cup of coffee, do all the narcs and all the whatever, and then sit down and not do the narcs, I guess, count the narcs. That was probably not the best turn of phrase, but but we
recommend counting.
I recommend counting the narcotics.
Definitely going to go work
on a controlled
Sounds
substance.
amazing.
Thank you. All right. Got it. No, what we do is we'd sit around the table, and I still do this in the morning, and we talk about our calls from the shift before, not because, we had this great RSI, whatever, this cool balloon pump, this ECMO, this, whatever. What it is we talk about the challenges we had with the calls. Hey, yeah, we got to bedside and they, were on ibuprofen. They didn't even tell us. They told us nitrix. We didn't have the right equipment. Here's what we did. We got it handled. Whatever. And then when we are making mistakes, one particularly that I tell, and we'll leave it even vaguer, probably for the smart reasons. I think there's probably some legal reasons at a certain point. But hypothetically, if you were to forget to synchronize cardiovert someone and nothing happened, thankfully, one could be embarrassed about that if that were to happen. So if you were embarrassed about that, you could internalize that and move on, or you could call every educator and you could tell everyone at your base, this is what I did. And you self-report and you tell the receiving, and the patient is fine, hypothetically, because this is a hypothetical patient, of course. But what that saves is the next person who goes to cardiovert, guess what I did? I hit the sync button and I actually almost forgot. And then I remembered your mistake. And it's not that I'm the dumbest clinician that ever lived. We think that when we make these mistakes that I can't do this job. We call it the cliff with these new hires at PHI. We call it the cliff. You're going to hit the cliff. You're going to make a mistake. I'm here to catch you and help you with those things. And even if I do that, we still might make a mistake. It might be something I've never seen. There's no way I've seen it all.
And just when you think you have, your patients are like, hold my beer.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Just when you think you have.
Read the textbook. Well, come on. You're supposed to respond to this. Yeah. And when you're talking about the mistakes too, what type of mistake was this? Is a mistake of complacency? Did I not check the aircraft? Because, that crew always does a great job restocking. Why would I check? It was an honest mistake. Oh, I really didn't know that was harmful. I didn't know those meds couldn't go together. That's my bad. I know now. Okay. Was it a comfort zone mistake? Okay. I've never put in a chest tube, but you know what? Instead of doing a simple, I'm going to put in a full chest tube, and maybe I sutured it too tight or something like that. It's like, okay, well, I went out of my comfort zone. It was an honest mistake, but I'm pushing my boundaries within my training. Right. So, okay. Or was it a dangerous mistake? Yeah, that's the policy. This med's worked for me before. I'm just going to do that. I'm intentionally doing this. And the result was a mistake that, didn't go well in my favor. So when we label the mistake, we can then move forward from there. So, okay, I know what type of mistake this was. If it's a dangerous mistake, does that person need to be here is something we need to think about, right? Are we being reckless? But the other ones, hey, you're learning. You got to hit your comfort zone. You've never intubated before and you've got to lead with suction. It's going to be okay. We're fine. All right. Or it went well despite that. But next time, you're going to remember that. It was an honest mistake. No one told me I had to lead with suction, which is a lie. But, or a complacent mistake. It was fine the last 3 intubations. I don't know why we're worried about it. So,
yeah. And I think identifying that is sometimes half the battle, right?
Yeah.
And being able to have that conversation, but it's all about how you communicate with them and not being afraid to have that open communication, because it all comes back to that. I think that's the number one thing. And our number one failure point is that being able to communicate, and it doesn't get any easier. I mean, it's a hard skill to master at the end of the day, and I think that the communication styles are not just how our orientees is receiving them, but I think that, we've talked a lot about dealing with new hires, but how do some of those concepts that you're talking about or discussing as a leader translate to those staff that have been there for 10, 20, 30 years? How does that communication change? How does that leadership style change? Because maybe I've only been here 5 years and I'm working with somebody who's been here 25 years and I'm trying to lead that kind of individual. That's not an easy task to do, right?
No, because who are you?
Right, exactly.
I've been flying as long as you've been alive. I heard that quite a bit when I started. I was 23 when I started flying. So yeah. And I'm 31 now. I'll disclose my age. We'll circle that back. All right. So, at my big age, when you'll understand someday.
I'll get there eventually.
You'll get there eventually.
But we were discussing how it's different talking to, people that you already work with, as somebody that's been there for forever and a day.
So some questions I use for that situation, there is a nurse in the Texas program that I just think the world of. this lady is badass. She's a dual. She has been doing it for 20 years, doesn't complain, great attitude. She's almost intimidating to fly with because I'm like, you're so good at your job. Oh my gosh. So then I'm like, well, who am I to tell her anything necessarily, right? So the first time I flew with her, I asked my normal questions that I ask everyone. Hey, anything I can do better for you next call? Uh, um, no, that was great. I liked how you put the monitor, but these were things that were going on in her head, but we weren't going to ever discuss them because I didn't ask or open the door to that.
Right.
And then the next time we flew together was like, and that's that trust. She's like, oh, he does care to hear my side of things, you know? And then I got the question back, well, what can I do better for you next time? And I'm like, oh, nothing. Could you walk me through though? And we're circling back. So now we've opened that door. Okay. And what that does, I'm leading, sure, but what I'm doing is getting the buy-in. So you get the trust, and then you don't just walk in and say, trust me, this is how we do things. It's the little things that get the buy-in. When I show up to that base, say me showing up in my flight suit, maybe that person doesn't do that anymore. They're like, it's not that big a deal. And they might think, he's a policy pusher, whatever, this, that. But then you get to a call and you have their back and you discuss things. Okay. The leading I'm doing isn't in the traditional sense of like, I'm directing, I'm whatever, but I'm supporting them to direct me. We're now exchanging. We're both leading, which we should be the entire time anyway. This job is unique in the sense that it's not my call. It's not your call. It's our call. And if you miss that, you don't need to be, that is not the point. But, so there's two of us for a reason.
Wholeheartedly agree.
Man, that hits.
Y'all don't want to go to church. Come on.
But yeah, you bring up such a valid point. It's our call, right? And one of the things when I first started as a field training officer, I had quite a bit of time but I still didn't think I was ready, because you would get to a point where I might, like, even to this day, I might get someone that has more experience than me, but they're going to come to our organization. And not only is it more experience, but I mean, if they're older than me, I'm like, how am I going to tell you, like, gosh, this sounds so bad. I respect my people that are older than me, like I have that respect for them, but I think it's also got to go both ways, because I mean, I'm getting older myself. Like I said, I'm 43, I've got 5 years till retirement. Not that I'm counting, but let's say,
that it? What?
Yeah. 5 years, buddy. 25.
Damn.
I mean, I can work longer, but let's be real.
You better work longer.
Oh, I will. But okay. This leads me to that point, right? So I'll be, 48, right? So if I start another job, if I come into another place of work, I can have this incredible resume. I would look amazing on paper. Sounds great. But to come into a new organization that I've never worked, I know, thankfully, from coming up in this field and getting so many slices of humble pie over the years of, you've got to be humble. You've got to be very open and learn the ways of where you're going. And that was always just such a big fear of mine when I started stepping into this field training officer role. And I remember a couple instances where I was like on that, the mountain of right, like I know that I'm correct, but when you have someone that's like, they're just digging in, I really felt like I didn't have a way to, counter that. Like I knew I was right, but I didn't want to sit there and say, well, I'm right, and it's because of this, but it was trying to figure out why they felt so indifferent about it. I just didn't have a lot of experience as a field training officer, especially with someone that they're like, hey, you've been doing this. You can handle this person. You're pretty good at what you do. And I don't know. I didn't really know how to combat that. I think I finally figured some humility out is a lot of times that best way, or leading with a, hey, this is kind of an uncomfortable conversation, but I just want to kind of get to the bottom of this. But like, what does that look like? Like, how do you have that kind of conversation, even though you know you're right?
Thank you to our sponsor, Metro Aviation. Metro Aviation, the world's largest family-owned aeromedical operator, offers comprehensive aircraft services with 140 plus aircraft in over 25 states. The Completion Center installs medical and law enforcement kits and avionics, serving diverse aviation needs including offshore, utility, VIP, and corporate sectors.
So I help write a lot of our clinical policies. So one thing about me, I'm going to know the policy, and it's annoying. I will just frankly say that I am annoying with policy. I know it. I don't know it all, but I know a good majority of them.
Sure.
But like I said, my new hire last night was like, actually, and I was like, oh, heck yeah. So I was like, that's going on an eval? Hell yeah, good job. Nailed it. Got me. But when you are approaching these conversations, what I try to think about is like, well, say you're not feeling like they're going to get any headway. Here's the policy, because no one wants an iPad waved in their face either. You can't do that. Like even me being the policy person, you can't do that. That's ridiculous. Like, come on,
cheating,
we have to work together. Like, you gotta be like, I'm right. Okay. And what? Now I'm annoyed. So now I'm defiantly not going to do that. Thank you. But what you can do is you can frame it then, okay, if me stating a fact or what my perception of this is, let's add more my personal perception with that. So there have been things where like the stretcher, okay? I like the stretchy sheet when we're rehabbing at the hospital. Partner A likes the white sheet. I hate the white sheet. Doesn't cover enough. Partner B doesn't want any sheet on there. That's not happening. So, but okay, we're going to put a sheet on, fine. But I have to then, what I can do, say it really bothers me. Like I am going to die on the hill today. This is the hill I'm dying on. This is the sword I'm falling on. I want the stretchy sheet. I'm going to go to that person and be like, look, I know you really prefer the white sheet. When you work with me, it would just make me a little more comfortable if we could use a stretchy sheet. I just feel more comfortable with that flow. It works better for me. Is that something you're willing to help me out with? Oh, do you a favor? Yeah, I can do you a favor. People want to help. So if you pose it as a favor, it's not, I need you to put this stretchy sheet on. That's the way I like it. I'm going to do it this way every time. Hey, when you wrap the monitor up, it really is easier for me and my flow, what I'm used to. Do me a favor, if you wouldn't just mind helping me out wrap it like this when you work with me. Oh, yeah, not a big deal. Instead of making it to where we're always in charge, give some of that back.
What if they come back and are like, you can have stretchy sheet and white sheet on top of the stretchy sheet?
Okay, funny you say this actually, because I was working with my boss the other day who knows that is a hill I will die on. And so we are walking through the ER and we pass the going to the ICU, we pass the linen cart, and I'm like, oh, let me grab a stretchy sheet on the way up. So he's crew 2 that day. I'm crew 1. I'm running whatever. And I get a report. I come out. He's rehabbed the stretcher. There's a white sheet on the stretcher. And the stretchy sheet is in the linen cart. And I'm like, you defiantly put that away. And he goes, I did it just to bother you. I'm like, oh my gosh. But he, it was kind of funny. I was like, dude.
I'm over here laughing because you can't work in this field and not be a type A OCD personality, right? Like,
yes.
I feel like it's impossible, and we all have our own isms. And
oh yeah,
I like to tell the new hires I don't have any nurseisms, and then my regular partners have to leave the room because they can't keep a straight face anymore.
Put on your mask. Yes.
And it is absolutely a fact. If I'm not hungry or tired, my nurseisms will still prevail regardless. They're just more exacerbated when I'm hungry or tired.
Oh yes.
And we all have those hills that we are, we have to do it this way. And it makes me chuckle because I think that we forget to be a little bit flexible at times. We forget to take somebody else's preferences into consideration, which is not an easy task some days because we are very type A OCD, and it's a challenge. It's not easy to get out of that mindset.
No. And I tell people, I'm like, is it going to hurt someone if you do it that way? That's the first question you'd ask. Seriously, is it going to hurt someone? And if the answer is yes, then yes, you need to die on that hill.
Right.
If it's not, and it just really annoys you, well, sorry, you might
I might hurt someone if they keep leaving the damn straps all just flopped all over the place, man.
I will redo those straps. I will do it in front of their face. I'll be like, no.
I'm right there with you, man. Just buckle them together, tighten them down, fold up the thing. That way they don't get caught just trying to pull the
you're walking through a field, traipsing around, and you trip on a, no.
I don't know why that's so hard. People are like, just throw it on there. It's fine.
No.
All this talk about the sheets, it brings me back to a nurse that we used to have that was so anal retentive about how the tarp that we used had to be folded up. And so we would all get creative. So like when one crew flies in, they'll drop a patient off at the hospital. The aircraft relocates over. So we'll get all their supplies together. And then somebody goes and picks them up by ground and brings them over. So by the time the crew comes back over to the hangar, we had his like tarp like folded into like, you know, a flag. We had like, you know, like you're on a cruise and you have like those
it's like an animal,
origami.
So we would come up with crazy ways all the time just because we knew it would drive him up a wall. We'd have another one made up ready to go in the way that he liked it, but it was always great. And I feel like your partners would probably do the same thing too.
They do. They did it to me the other day. We have a whiteboard and we check out the blood, you know, we put the expirations there big so you can see them. And I was so proud. I made up this board and I come back from a couple of days off and it's written just so small, 2-1. And I'm like, I went over there, I erased it. And then the off-coming crew came out of their rooms and I'm like, how you doing? I'm like, good. I know what you did. And they're like, oh, we knew you'd see it right away. And they're just cackling. And I'm like, guys.
The pettiness sometimes is just incredible.
Yeah. But you know, having that camaraderie and knowing like what the ticks are of your partners, it really is what makes going to work fun some days. Like when you know your teammates that well that you can, you know what their annoyances are and you can capitalize on those at the right moment, because we all need to play that like annoying big brother or big sister sometimes.
We live together.
Exactly. We live together. But you know, when you have that kind of camaraderie relationship, and how do you think that ends up? Like obviously, these actions can go either way. They can either go really well or they can go very poorly. But when you have that kind of camaraderie, when you do have that kind of interaction with your base, and the culture that it creates, how do you feel that overall affects the way your team functions, the family atmosphere that you have? I think this is an obvious answer, right? But at the same time, I think that it comes from having those frontline leaders who kind of, trudge that path along the way.
It goes like what that translates to, as we know, is like you're going to do better on calls. You're going to perform better because you're spending time together. I'm not saying we have to sit in the living room all day and I need to know every life story. Please don't trauma dump at me at 7 a.m. I mean, like, give me a minute. But we can get there. Now, 2 a.m. charting, I've got some Creed on and you want to talk. Let's hear it. Yes, ma'am. But when we're just getting started for the day, the meal thing is the reason I die on that hill, specifically at my base and on workover. Workover, I think it's even more important. I don't know these people often, but I come in and, here's some bacon, here's some eggs. If you want to eat, great. If not, oh, okay. And then we kind of talk, hey, what's your experience? Oh, I've, done this. Awesome. Great. Okay. So if we get a balloon pump call, sounds like you're really good at those. I look forward to hopefully getting one of those with you today. And then they're like, oh, okay. And then we're already bridging that gap. So then when we do
first off, no one hopes for a balloon.
No, I would rather take back-to-back Echo all day than do.
Amen.
Balloon pumps they're just ghetto, and you have to do the arts and crafts stuff. No, you're right. You're right. So I wouldn't fault them for that. And if they said they like balloon pumps, I'd probably be like, actually, I don't want to work with you at all. I take that back. I'm calling off. Thank you, though. And no bacon for you. You can go. Bye. But what that does do, so like my base culture, for example, when I came to the base, I kept with our meal thing. And over time, when I'm not there or I take PTO or stuff, our crews are still having meals together. They didn't do that before. Yeah. And it's not that we're all like the bestest friends, which we've got a great base, which we're fortunate. That's not the case for everyone. But we also handpicked everyone and did all that stuff. But, we just are a little more tight-knit and they are prepared for the worst calls ever because they spend that time together.
I don't know, man. I wish we could do that. We have so many weird eaters.
Yeah. There are some bases. We got vegetarians.
Blake, aren't you one of those weird eaters?
No, I'm like the garbage like can. Like I eat just about everything. So I think it's just when you try to like cook. But I think it's also like this has been like the other topic that keeps coming in is like Murphy's Law is always when you're like, man, let's do some steaks.
I'm all for the eating thing. Absolutely. Yeah. We used to have the unofficial the unwritten rule that in order to come off orientation, you would have to cook a meal for the rest of the team that was there, and you would get graded on presentation and taste. And but it was a good way for us to all come together. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Another thing I do that's even simpler than that, I bring a little speaker, I leave it at the base. It's labeled with my nickname on there, and then other people to bother me, I put their names with sticky notes on it. We'll let that go. It is cute. But I will play music throughout the day, and then now other crews do. And what that does is I get to learn a little bit about you now. So like when I go do work over at a base, I usually start with like some Texas country, read the room. You're like, do we like this? Do we hate this? Okay, you don't look entertained. I specifically remember going to a base with a bunch of old heads, and I put on country. I was like, they don't seem very into it. I put on like some old Chevelle and Miss Mouse and Chains. They did not leave the kitchen all day, and I was like, found some common ground. All right. So there's other ways, to kind of bridge that gap. And then charting's less awkward than sitting there suffering, put a little music. Yeah.
That's a good way. That's a good way to bridge those gaps. A lot of times I think all of us, we try to play different music, but then it's also kind of gotten into like where people start playing things that are annoying a little bit to see like all of a sudden, like, Taylor Swift comes on and people are like,
You don't like No Tay
Tay? Like, how long Look, I'm not going to say yeah or nay on that.
Blake's a Swiftie. Don't let him fool you.
Yeah.
I knew it.
I just want something in the background to break up the monotonous and like the keyboard clicking.
Yes.
Is like the most annoying thing in the world to me. Yeah. So any music is helpful.
But I think you bring up a really good point with all of this. And the part that I love is sometimes it's not about the big things that you're doing. Sometimes it's just those little things here and there that help to boost morale, that help to create community, that help to bring all of the team together. And you work more like a well-oiled machine. You enjoy and tolerate being around each other a little bit more. And it just makes for a great base culture to be able to have that kind of relationship with your team. At the end of the day, it can only help. Right? But it's those little things that you do that make the difference. And I think that's the cool part about it. And sometimes you don't even realize it. Like I feel like a lot of times like my partners are like, they're just putting on music because they enjoy it. And next thing you know, I'm sitting down next to him and I'm like, yeah, I haven't heard this song in forever. This is awesome. Yeah. Like, like it's just those little things that like help to kind of facilitate some of that conversation or that camaraderie.
Absolutely.
Moving forward from that though, if you had to talk to your existing team members right now and you want to show frontline leadership in the organization or base, what advice do you have for those team members that have been there? Like what's one key takeaway that you can give them and be like, if there's something that you could do that would change how you can lead this base in a more positive way, what would it be?
Thanks to our sponsor, Airbus. Airbus provides the most efficient helicopter solutions to its customers who serve, protect, save lives, and safely carry passengers in demanding environments. Its civil and military helicopters are flying all over the world, making missions possible. Visit airbus.com for more information.
Easy. Do the work. Immediately comes to my mind, and that sounds so simple. But there are a lot of ways to not do your job. There are a lot of ways to not do your job. We all know of organizations, bases that, get away with just the bare minimum. That's great. Do the work. Come in, do the work. Your name, again, is not on the side of that aircraft.
Yeah,
come in, do the work. We get so much privilege in this job and free time We really do. If you just do what they ask you to do, at most, you're taking a couple hours of your morning or the beginning of your shift to get those things done. A little training, a little, this, that. Even if you trained a full hour or two, you still have almost, if you're on 24s like I am, you've got 20 hours left. That is your time. Do the work. That's it. Because again, I come to my base, my crews know, again, like I'm going to come in every day and do the work. I'm never going to ask them to do something that I'm not doing. And if I do have an off day, I'm going to tell them, I'm going to communicate that, hey, we're going to check the aircraft and all that. I need a minute in my room today, whatever that is. And that's rare, but they know what the normal is. They know what the expectation is.
Yeah.
And what they do with other partners, that's not my business. I can control my shift though. So do the work.
I love that. And I think that it's so easy to get sucked into all of the bad habits that we forget about all of the good habits that we need to maintain every shift. And you need to show up ready to go. You need to be in the right mind frame. You need to be well rested. And yeah, we may not have it all together someday.
Yes.
But we should probably have most of those pieces of the puzzle ready to go.
Generally.
Most of them. Generally, most of them. We're not perfect by any means, but I love what you're saying. Just do the work.
Just
go
do
check
the work.
your rig. Make sure that you're in good shape to go out the door. Make sure that the aircraft is washed. Make sure that you got all your charts done. Make sure that you've done QA for the shift. All of those little things that set the tone for how that entire shift is going to go. And you just come in and you do the work. And it seems so easy, but it's something that I feel like gets very easily forgotten too.
Well, and when I do the work, I now have, these, they're not new hires. I'm not even called new hires, but less senior crew members who now have that questioning attitude back with me because I employed that. I was working with a nurse the other day who I've been flying much longer. And, she's like, hey, did you get a chance to do your PBT? That's our fatigue assessment. And I was like, oh, no, I didn't. And I was like, I kind of was just hoping I forget it and move on with the night because we have to do it every 12 hours. But she felt empowered to be like, hey, did you want to get that done? Oh, I do. Yes, ma'am. Okay. It goes both ways, that respect. But we built that up over time. So, and that gives her an opportunity to lead. With that too, what that brings to mind, one thing we are really bad about as an industry, and it could be specific to a culture, sure, is we do not praise each other enough. We are so hyper fixated on, that base, they're awful. That crew from that company, they're awful. They kill people. They blah, 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 blah. I generally don't think anyone gets in this job trying to hurt people. That is not you working with the resources you have and what you know. And we need to remind ourselves that. And praising can go down to just the line level. So like, I'm not saying blow smoke every flight, and be like, you're the best ever. That was the best call I've ever ran because I've never had a perfect call. So
first off, if I ever did that, my partners know I would be completely sarcastic.
Oh yeah, I would be getting them uncrustable to the face. I'd be like, shut up, be quiet. But I had a partner recently. We had a challenging call, and all they complimented after the call was like, "Hey, I really like how you handled that conflict." I was like, "Oh, I didn't think anything of it." And then so they're like, "Oh, the way you talked about that," and I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, maybe if their perception is that, well, okay, next time I run into that, I'm going to try that same approach." Simple, 2-second conversation, but it was praise. When I'm CQIing a charter, we just had our meeting. We have like a monthly meeting before CQI with all the CQI reps, which is like our auditing. We're like, hey, this is what we need to work on. Today, I kind of reframed it. I'm like, hey, let's talk about the things people have been doing well. We've been asking them to get this metric every flight, and the majority of people have been doing it. So maybe we should not just harp on everyone. We should say, hey, you guys are listening. You guys did great. Because no one wants to get blah, blah, blah at the entire time. So just another way to look at it.
I think it goes along a lot with what we've been talking about lately. And Blake, I think you know exactly where I'm going with this, but I feel as though that's all that we do is we focus on the bad things. We get back from a flight. Hey, everything, what went wrong on that? What do we need to focus on that went wrong? And it's like, what we do wrong is this like minute part of this entire job.
Yes.
Why are we not focusing on what we're doing right?
Yes.
And that's in every aspect, whether it be aviation, whether it be the medical side, whether it be our base culture. Why are we not focusing on what we're doing right?
we do 99 things well and one thing wrong, and that's what we fixate on. And it's like,
Yeah.
And, when I start these debriefs every flight, I, specifically my new hires, but it could be anyone, hey, what went well? You have to start with that question. What went well? And my new hire yesterday, the natural instinct is, well, I did a good job of this, but no, we're focusing on what went well. And you have to redirect that. You have to break that right there. We will come back to that. I want to hear what you did. Yes. And then when you do get to the criticism side of it, the one word you need to say, what can we do better next time? You have to say we, because that opens it up to like, well, you're not judging me, you're judging us. And like, well, you were great. I doubt it. Maybe I could have watched you a little better when you were drawing that medication up. I don't know. And then you have to ask, if you're the leader or the mentor, did I do anything to contribute to that error or to your frustration, whatever it was? And then again, back to that, what can I do better for you next time? Tying all that in just makes it a little easier for everyone to find common ground. So
the thing that you said earlier, it's just speaking out in my head right now. And is it policy or is it preference?
Yes.
And I can think of like, and Mike, when you just said like those small minute things that were like, oh, that went wrong. I think most of the time it's just because it wasn't what I preferred, and I didn't have for whatever reason, the forethought, the confidence at that moment, or whatever, to say something at the time. And I'm just like, why would you? Okay. All right. I see what you did there. All right. I'm going to be mad at you now the rest of the shift, and then we fixate on that for no other reason. And it really is probably more just like preference, than it was policy. I mean, it does happen. Yeah. Do we break policy every now and then? Sure. It does happen. There are gray areas. There's sometimes things that just come up. Right. But I think a lot of it, I'm just thinking of my own frustrations. It's probably something that I would have preferred not to have done. And then I just fixate on that. Why did you land us there? Right. That was the dumbest thing.
I had to walk across that. Yeah. Yeah. Why'd you point the tail that way? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then I just, and then it just kind of sets that tone. And then you walk in and then like they're hanging off the stretcher and you're like, you didn't get an IV. Oh, at least my face says that. I didn't say that, but my face may say that. And it just starts that cycle. And then what I just really hope for, and I think what I've worked with enough people long enough, and this is kind of something I've always tried to instill whenever I encounter like new people to this role or whatever, is please just tell me. And I try to set that expectation from the front, is just please tell me, whether it's the look or it's the tap, or the yo. Whatever it is, just, I don't mind, because you could interrupt that cycle for me. And that, like, for me, I know that works. Maybe for some other people, it doesn't. And I'm not saying, that's for everybody, but I at least know for me, I know when I start to go down that hole, I will fixate on that one thing. Yeah, well, you landed us in this field. There's a perfectly good parking lot right here. And now I got mud on my boots. And now I step into this ambulance. Now I have to deal with this. And they're like, yo, are you okay? They're like, yeah, you're fine. I'm like, oh, you're right. Yeah, we're totally good. But I've always tried to at least instill that as like, I know I'm not perfect. I know I'm going to get bitchy, especially after midnight. And I'm honest about that. And I just just say, hey, Blake.
Well, considering you're normally in bed on an everyday basis at like 8:30.
Yeah, like 8 p.m. Yeah, I know. Right. I usually get most of my night's sleep before midnight. So.
Oh man,
but that's the advice that I try.
No, you're right though, but it's not always about what you say, but how you say it. And it's that old adage, like, again, another cliche term here to throw out, but you can have a difficult conversation with somebody if you're not like, in their face about it. You can have that difficult conversation and communicate in a way that the message is going to get across and that you are opening up for them to get their message across, and you can make it very productive. It's not an easy thing to do, though, sometimes when we let emotion get involved.
Oh, yeah. Tone, time, and delivery.
Amen to that.
Man.
Amen to that.
It's hard. Yeah.
I think that's my next tattoo. I think I'm going to have to put it right
here.
So
timing, delivery. Yeah. Yes. I think I'm running out of space, but I'll see what I can do.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure you can find a space if you really want to.
right here, tone across my
there
neck,
you go, there
tone,
you go.
tap,
There
all
you
over.
go.
If my face doesn't say it, my neck tattoo will. We'll be that way.
Perfect.
Just get like good eyes on the eyelids. You can just shut them, and then you look like
Tone
super happy.
timing. God.
Perfect. Well, I think that's some great advice for the frontline leaders in the industry. Again, circling back what you said, just do the work, right? But what about for those new members coming in, those new hires that are coming into a program? They're not really sure maybe who the leaders may be. They're not really sure how, like, maybe they don't recognize everything that they're getting themselves into coming into this profession, right? How do they set the tone for their own success in terms of interacting with all of these new crew members? What do you wish a new hire would come to you and say, this is what I want or need?
That is a great question. And, a lot of times I think, I'm sure you guys have seen it, these new hires underestimate what our job is. I was just talking about this yesterday. I thought you guys literally just kind of monitored patients in a helicopter. I wish. It is not that. That is 1 out of 50 calls. I wish.
Shorts would be a lot easier.
Yeah. Are you kidding me? I wouldn't be in EMS charts for 4 hours. What? Yeah. So how I kind of break that down is you got to understand where they're at in the process. So between commitment to the organization or to the skill and to competence. So commitment, I'm talking about are they motivated and what is their confidence level with that? Okay. So one aspect, what is their commitment? Other is competence. Do they have the skills and the task knowledge, which when you are a brand new hire, you're not going to. You might think you do, and you're going to hit that clip really quick, but they're highly committed. They're highly motivated. They're like, I have worked so hard, whatever they did to get this flight suit. I am ready to be here. But I thought I knew what this job is and I don't. Okay. I went through academy. I'm feeling okay, but I don't know. So they're motivated by the challenge, but they're not really sure. Okay. Then we get them to kind of start to understand the job. They're like, okay, I've observed a couple flights. I see what the flow looks like. But now I'm feeling even less confident because that looks challenging. Like you guys were so fast. I'm never going to be that fast. So low confidence, maybe a little competence in there. Like, okay, they could put the monitor on without tripping out of the ambulance. That's great. Okay. Then maybe it varies based on the call or situation. They're like, I feel great on scene calls. And then we do these ICU transfers and I am way out of my comfort level. My confidence is going down and my competence, okay, please don't be a balloon pump because I definitely don't want to deal with that. But okay, it's just an intubated patient on, a couple drips. Awesome. So then they're uncertain, like, well, could I do this without my preceptor and another crew member here? I don't know. And then they're really motivated at the end. They're like, okay, I've gotten through this orientation. I've gotten through my second seat training. I am either highly skilled or moderately enough that I know I can handle most things. That's the goal at the end of orientation, or it should be, that I can be safe. I'm ready to be here and I've got enough skills. So they've got the transferable knowledge and the confidence. So finding where they're at in that aspect is key. And understanding that that's going to progress throughout the orientation. I keep going back to my new hire, but this is fresh for me because we just got off this morning. And, we had a sick patient, their first patient on a ventilator last night. We had a couple flights, but, this one was very task heavy, lots of beds, lots of interventions. Great. And I could see the wheels turning of like, well, I was starting to feel good and like I could run a call. And now, that was really frustrating. We had a full conversation at the end, I was like, hey, just so you know, you're where I expect you to be at for this far in your orientation. What? Mm-hmm. You've only had 6 flights. You're on you are on third seat.
Super important.
You were observed. Yeah. I was like, you are exactly where I think you should be. I would have not put you in a situation where you were unsafe. I was watching the entire time. When I stepped in, it's because we need to do something that second, but we talked about it after. You did what I needed you to do. I was not going to set you up for failure. And then, she was like, oh, okay. She was like, and she literally said, she goes, just knowing that you believe I can do this job is helpful. She goes, no one says that. And I'm like, no, I believe you can do this job. If I'm spending time on you, that's because I believe you deserve to be here and you should be here. You work to get here. As long as you're going to work with me, I'll work with you. We're going to get it done. But I was like, you are where you're supposed to be.
Thank you to our sponsor, Precision Aviation Group. Mission-critical operators and fleet managers rely on Precision Aviation Group as a worldwide leading rotor and fixed-wing MRO provider. PAG provides tip-to-tail solutions in 4 MRO segments: avionics, components, engines, and manufacturing DER services. A single point of contact gives you access to over 150 million in inventory globally, 24/7. Just call 800-537-2778. Precision Aviation Group. Others sell parts. We sell support.
Everyone has these imaginary benchmarks and they compare to like, well, this other new hire's already done 10 calls and they're so great. And that's all happenstance. We can't control a lot of these things. Right. And, so reminding people that like where you're at in your experience, even if you've been here a couple of years, I get people, sometimes like one of my isms is we have to take ventilator data every 15 minutes. Okay. A lot of people will set a timer to remind themselves to do ventilator data every 15 minutes. I have done over 1,500 flights. Every 15 minutes, for some reason, my brain phones out, take a picture, and I move on. And it annoys my partners because they're like, every time you send me the pictures to chart, they're exactly on the 15-minute mark. Why is that? I'm like, experience and time. I was like, you'll get there. I've gotten more reps doing this. And, I'm like, it's not that you're doing anything wrong. It's just where I'm at in my journey and where you're at in your journey. I was there. Trust me, I was a hot mess to start. Who isn't? Like, but reminding, giving some self, but also understanding that we each are growing at different rates. It's very important. Yeah.
I think that all that's great to be able to keep in mind. And I think that that's something that's super important for both the leaders and our new hires as they're going through the orientation process. But like when you look at the different learning styles, when you look at the different communication styles, when you look at how we're reframing the mistakes, like do our new hires need to have a good concept of where they fall on that scale? Like, this is how I learn best. This is how I like to be communicated to best. Like, do they need to know that? And is that something that should be projected to the preceptors or the leaders that they're with? Or is that something that like you just kind of figure it out as you go? Like, I don't know how many people are truly aware of some of those things in themselves, but what's your thoughts on that?
That is great because I've seen this on both sides. So we do a preceptor workshop every year where we come together and we solve the world's problems,
right.
In
yeah.
10 hours.
Of course.
But every time, and even in my own academy, when I started, we went over our learning styles. And the honest truth is that gets thrown out once you get to the line.
Yep.
I could tell you, like, I remember coming with my papers and I was like, this is my learning style I did in the classroom portion. And they're like,
rip that up.
Anyway,
nice.
moving on. Yeah. And they taught my academy. But so, yeah, there's a aspect of when we're using too many tools. All these terms and stuff I said is great. That's fantastic. Great gee whiz buzzwords. But the reality is, you gotta just kind of understand where they're coming from. That's why asking their experience and focusing on that rather than, well, here's what I've done, and this is why I'm your preceptor. No one cares. Clearly, I've got enough experience to be your preceptor. I want to know where you're at. Things I ask new hires or even partners I haven't worked with, in other bases, I will ask questions like, hey, is there any skills that you haven't done or haven't done in a while? That gives me more information than you'd think. Well, actually, I've never done an IO. Oh, okay. Awesome. If we get one today, I'd be glad to let you do it or whatever. I've done plenty. Oh, okay. And it just kind of opens things up that way. So yeah, just making sure we're staying open and I'm losing my train of thought now, but yeah.
And I think it's helpful to have some of that. And I wanted to ask you because I feel like it's never a question I ask somebody when they come in and they start working with me. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to start teaching you. And then I just kind of figure it out, like which route they like to go best. I'm like, these are my usual tricks I'm going to pull out of my bag. And when I see you bite onto one, then I'm going to go down that route. But like,
I'll tell you, sometimes you just have to be direct with it. There have been new hires where I directly have just asked where I see they're frustrated. And after the call, one of them particularly, arguably, I think my best nurse that I've trained. And, she would get frustrated. I was told that before she came to me, like, hey, she got frustrated in academy with this and that or the other, and kind of shut down. Okay. So I had a little pre-warning. Sure. You don't always get that. So then we started to fly together, and I would just kind of watch and a little frustrated, not to like a shutdown, we can't do the call thing. But so after, one day I was like, I just have to ask. I've got to be direct with this because I'm trying to adjust. I was trying to do my normal thing. Like, I'll be more supportive. I'll be more directive. And I wasn't really getting anywhere. And I was like, all right. So I just, frankly, I was like, hey, what do you need when this happens? And she was like, I need to be redirected. I need someone to just bring me back to the moment. And I was like, okay, let's find a word that brings us back to that. She's like, okay. So I was like, why don't I just say pause? I'm going to hold up my hand like this, not in your face, but I'm just going to go like this and go pause. And that means we're missing something or we need to backtrack. She's like, okay. And we did that with even when we're at the base charting, I can't find this pause. Okay. Just take a breath. You're right. It's right there in my face. Okay. Then we get on calls. Hey, pause. It's not us arguing. No one knows what that means. We're just like, oh, okay, whatever, freaks. And, but it regrounds her. So, as a mentor, leader, whoever, just having an awareness of your partner's, like, kind of, I don't want to say ticks, but just seeing how they interact sounds the best way. But then being direct, hey, what are you thinking when this happens? I did have a new hire one time just light me up and was like, hey, I need you to not interrupt my train of thought to give me critiques in real time. I need you to do that after the call. I was like, oh. They don't work anymore for other reasons. But I appreciated the sentiment more than anything because I was like, okay, I would have just kept, that was the style I knew at the time of precepting. So that didn't work. And I was like, okay, what do you need? Let's find a middle ground. Because there are some things I do need to speak up at in real time because I understand them as a safety issue and you're learning. Okay, well, how about, if you just let me finish a task, unless it's going to be, detrimental, then we can talk about it. Like, let me finish. Yeah. If I'm putting the monitor on, please don't talk to me about the pump until I'm done with that. Okay, which that order doesn't even make sense, but you get what I'm saying.
As leaders, and as we're precepting and doing these things, one of the biggest things that we have to remember for ourselves is we are also still learning to do this, right? And we're going to still keep encountering all different walks of life, all different people from various backgrounds that are coming in to do this. And there's not one way that works the same way each and every time. And when you were talking about that, you have your annual leadership come together and you solve all the world's problems.
I love that.
That was one of the things I think that when I took the Future Flight Leaders course last year, it was amazing. I had I've been an FTO for a few years now, probably 5 years. 4 years, 4 or 5 years, somewhere in there. I just can't remember stuff anymore. But
it's because
I was, it's the age. It's no, I just, hard. Yeah. I would get to this point where I as I was like enrolling in this, I was like, I think this is going to be really eye-opening for me because I just felt like we do a lot of good at our agency. We do a lot of things to develop leadership. But kind of one of the things that you said earlier was you can almost have too many tools or it's not so much that there's so many tools, but there's just so many options. Right. But at the same time, I want to embrace that, but I also want to know like when is the right time for that right tool. Do I need the shovel? Do I need the hammer? Do I need the net? So that was a big thing going into that Future Flight Leaders course, at least for me. And I think one thing that I took from that was I've got a long way to go. And it's never going to stop as long as I assume this role. So I truly feel that what Mike was saying earlier, like when we are trying to set the tone for the new people coming up, like they are going to be the us, so to speak, the experienced people at some point, and just finding a way to have that common ground, have that communication. And I love what you said earlier, Zane, was take the things that you like and leave the things that you don't, because you don't have to bring those with you. That I didn't ever really kind of think that way. I was always, as I first started, and Mike, maybe you were too, like you had to sponge, you had to take everything and then sort it out later. Like I had to carry it all with me and then be like, oh, yeah, well, that definitely didn't work. You know,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I didn't really kind of know that concept until, well, you know, hindsight's always 2020, I guess, is kind of where I feel like I've been in the last few years.
I mean, maybe as flight clinicians, we're moving into our kinder, gentler era, where we're starting to maybe, you know, foster the growth of the new people. I listen. I had some great mentors throughout my early career. You know, in EMS, in nursing, and as a flight clinician, I had a lot of great mentors along the way and people that I really looked up to, and I'm grateful for that. I fear that the amount of mentors in that capacity are very quickly dwindling. And I think that we need to foster that in between crowd to really make sure that they really are those mentors and leaders. And it doesn't require a title, just like you said. It doesn't require anything more than showing up and doing the work and really just being there for each other at the end of the day.
Everything we talked about, if they do it as a baseline, then they're already a leader. They might not even know it. They already are a leader. All these nurses I just trained at my base, they're all leaders. I would let them precept anyone. I'd put them up against anyone. Yeah. And they may not feel that or know that, but that's what happened innately because, you know, gave back the tools to them. And that's why they feel good to question me or whoever. I don't care who they're questioning and getting that camaraderie. They're already leaders. They were leaders when they walked in the door, in my opinion, in the first place.
That's why they're there. That's why you hired them.
Exactly. Exactly.
Love that. Zane, thank you so much for the conversation today. This has been a great discussion. As you can tell, Blake and I think, are as equally as passionate about this as you are. And it's great to sit down with a like-minded individual to be able to solve the world's problems, if you will, like you were discussing. So we greatly appreciate you coming and talking with us. This is something that we truly feel is at the heart of our industry and needs to remain there. And we need to foster it. We need to grow it, and we need to make it even better. And so we appreciate you having this discussion with us and coming on and joining us today.
And thank you all so much for having me and allowing me space to communicate all of this. Something I'm passionate about. The reason I'm still here is because of my mentors. And, you know, I want to keep that going.
Thank you again to our listeners out there for the continued support of the Vertical Helicast platform and the Valor Flight Crew podcast. And once you guys are all caught up on the Valor Flight Crew podcast, make sure you head on over to verticalhelicast.com. You can check out some other amazing discussions on the Hangar Z podcast, Helicopter podcast, Real Rescue podcast, and the Vertical MRO podcast. Take care, everyone. Be safe. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Valor Flight Crew podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to hear more stories that promote the personnel and equipment behind the missions in public safety aviation. Lastly, stand by for a message from our sponsors.
Thanks to our sponsor, Airbus. Airbus provides the most efficient helicopter solutions to its customers who serve, protect, save lives, and safely carry passengers in demanding environments. Its civil and military helicopters are flying all over the world, making missions possible. Visit airbus.com for more information. Thank you to our sponsor, Precision Aviation Group. Mission-critical operators and fleet managers rely on Precision Aviation Group as a worldwide leading rotor and fixed-wing MRO provider. PAG provides tip-to-tail solutions in 4 MRO segments: avionics, components, engines, and manufacturing DER services. A single point of contact gives you access to over 150 million in inventory globally, 24/7. Just call 800-537-2778. Precision Aviation Group. Others sell parts. We sell support.
Thank you to our sponsor, Metro Aviation. Metro Aviation, the world's largest family-owned aeromedical operator, offers comprehensive aircraft services with 140-plus aircraft in over 25 states. The Completion Center installs medical and law enforcement kits and avionics, serving diverse aviation needs including offshore, utility, VIP, and corporate sectors.
That's it for this episode of the Valor Flight Crew podcast. A big thank you to Zane Atencio for sharing his experiences and reminding us that leadership isn't about rank or titles. It's about the way we show up for our crews, our patients, and our communities every single day. From the ground to the air, strong teams are built on trust, communication, and the willingness to keep learning. Every shift is an opportunity to build trust, support your teammates, and make the job better for the next person who steps in. If this conversation resonated with you, please share with your team and help to cultivate your leaders on the front lines every day. It's been an honor to talk with Zane, and we hope this conversation inspires some up-and-coming frontline leaders in your organization just as much as it's inspired us. Thanks for tuning in. Stay safe out there, look out for one another, and we'll see you next week on the Valor Flight Crew podcast.